Welcome back, new beginners. We are New Beginnings After 40. I am Jen.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Lori.
Today we are going to start a 3-part episode about our health journeys. And we're going to really deep dive into Lori's Hashimoto's thyroid disorder and holistic doctor's path. And then next week, we'll talk about Kimberly and her cancer and her million stays in the hospitals.
I'm a VIP. I mean, I have a card that says, I'm welcome at all hospitals.
Does that come with free parking?
Actually, it comes with free parking, and it comes with upgraded food, and it comes with the nurses coming at my beck and call with never any anger.
She's pretty close to getting a free stay from all her points.
Wait. When she says free food options, this is what happens. She calls me to smuggle her in food. The last time, it was, can you bring me a Coke Zero and some combos? And so I'm like, sure, I'll get anything for you. And I show up, and on her tray is Jell-O and broth. And I'm like, it looks like you're on a liquid diet.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like you can have a Coke Zero and some combos. Oh, it's okay. I'll just tell them that I did DoorDash for 7-Eleven.
No, she had already called Larry and me, and we both said, no, you are on a liquid diet. So she called Miss Lori.
Yeah, once again, I'm the one that never said no.
I truly appreciate you.
Yeah,
because,
you're welcome.
I'm still sitting here, so it was obviously fine.
Didn't kill you.
No, but I definitely always have y'all bring me in food because I don't want to eat what they serve all day, every day.
Well, that's why you're there, though. But that's for next week's episode.
Yeah. Well, if you ever need to learn how to be a VIP at a hospital, just tag me and comment. I will definitely let you know.
Well, should we first talk about what's happened in our week to catch the listeners up to how this week is going?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Jen?
I went to the races last weekend, the horse races, with my man and his friend, and we had a great time, but I'm pretty sure that's where I got my stomach virus that put me out for the rest of the week. Good times.
Did you win any money?
I made enough to I had taken $200 cash, and that was all I was going to bet, $20 for 10 races. That was my goal, to not go over. And I came home with, I think, 80. So I was able to keep going through the whole time and not spend the whole 200.
Well, that's good, though, because, it's like when you go to a casino and you put in $100 bill in a slot machine, and 5 minutes later, it's all gone. Yeah.
It lasts 5 minutes for you?
Well, actually, on this last time, I accidentally hit all, and it took all of my 100 in one roll. And I was like, oh, that I shouldn't have pressed that.
So that was it for me. Sick for the rest of the week.
Wow. I'm so sorry.
You had a good time.
Worth it.
I heard you did run into my sister, though. So
I did. It was so good to see her. We were walking past, and we both went, hey!
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Kimberly?
Well, unfortunately, I'm down the same path Jen is, or was. I became sick on Saturday. So I don't know if she really got it from the race since I was sick on Saturday.
Well, I didn't get it this time.
I don't know. But, so I've been in bed for the last 6 days, and it was bad. And I was miserable. And then normally I have headaches every day, but this last 3 days or so, they've turned into migraines. And so I almost ended up in the hospital again, but I kept telling myself, you don't have insurance. You don't have insurance. You can do this. So I just concocted my own medication with the help of Chat GPT. I'm gonna tell you, I love that Chat GPT because now it has a voice and it talks to me, and we have conversations together.
Don't let it replace your two best friends.
I think
He
it
doesn't
might.
need us anymore.
I don't need you anymore because she's hilarious. But yes, today is actually my first day of really getting out, and I truly hope that it stays away.
Me too.
Lori, you?
Well, thankfully, I have not been sick all week, which I guess, like I said in the, I don't know, second or third podcast, that
Third.
typically I don't get whatever they have. So maybe that's working out for me now. So I had my hair appointment this week. You know, I did mention, you did see I had my hat on last weekend, which I was wearing because it was race week, and it's not race week this week, so I'm not wearing a hat, but I will be next week, so don't worry. But also I had the gray. So I did go to my hair appointment this week and saw my wonderful hairdresser, and so I love going there because it is truly therapy. Like, we have such a great time. But so I wanted to kind of touch on briefly, I didn't tell you guys this, but so she was married to like 25 years, and she's in her, I want to say she's 45, 46. She's about your age, Jen.
Okay.
And her daughters are both grown, out of the house. She's empty nesting, and you know, what's life like trying to date at that stage? And she's really been working hard on herself, so she's more about, like, I wouldn't call it selfish, but she really put herself on the back burner for 25 years.
100%.
And now she's like she's been traveling around and doing things for just her, and she even had to lose her cats because her daughter moved out and took the cats. It was so sad. She was heartbroken, and I'm really looking forward to going back next time because she's going to watch the cats for the first time since they left her house. And I'm like, are you gonna take them back with you? She goes, it's gonna be really hard. So I'm interested to hear that.
Let me ask you this though: how long has she been away from?
Divorced?
Yeah.
Probably, I want to say 5 or 6 years now.
Okay,
maybe.
so that's a good healthy time.
A good healthy
Yeah.
time. So she has this client, and this has been going on for probably a year, maybe. And so she has a client. He's a firefighter, and he also is single in the last like 8. He's been her client for about, I think, 4 or 5 years, and he got divorced himself, and he's been single for about 8 months or so. So there have been times that, like, he's done stuff that she's like, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe he's not ready. Maybe he's really not into me. But the last time I was in, it was around right after Valentine's Day. So on Valentine's Day, he had an appointment. He brought her in a flower. And I'm like, okay, you don't just do that for your hairdresser if you're a single guy.
I know.
So that's a sign. But still, she wasn't sure. And so this time when I came back, what's kind of unfolded is there's this creepy client she had that was basically trying to hit on her. And he goes to, I guess, a gym close by, and he asked her, if you go to the gym, and she was like, I'm not really been to that one, but yeah, he was like, and he just kept on, like, kind of like approaching her, made her feel uncomfortable. So the other girl that owns the establishment said, well, she has a boyfriend. And so he was like, your boyfriend lets you go to the gym? And she's like, well, yeah.
What?
And so, long story short, the client that she is interested in, the firefighter, comes in this last week too, before me. And the owner that she had the conversation with came over to him and said, she has this client that was really uncomfortable and saying all these weird stuff to her. So we basically told her she had a boyfriend. So we basically said it was you. And he actually was like, totally, then after that happened, like, he started flirting. Like, she was telling me things, and she was saying, like, he was doing things like, okay, so he came in to get his hair cut, and he got it cut shorter, and he said, because I'm going to be in a Landman, like, he's an extra. But
You told us about the
No,
Landman.
I did tell you about that the last episode, but not this part of the story, because that's
No,
Tuesday.
but gosh,
But hold on,
oh my
so then
goodness.
he tells her he was in Linus. season and what episode. So I know the scene now. So she told me this week, so I'm gonna go watch it because I haven't watched it yet. So then I'll know who he is.
let me know so I can
will.
look too.
Well, I will. So once I see it. So anyway, so then he started like he texted her this little banter and it was like and he says it's your favorite actor and I need to get an appointment next week. I'm like, oh, he's totally flirting with you now.
Yes.
So that really helped start like plant the seed by her saying that they used him as her boyfriend, right? And so then she was like, well, so on Easter, like I sent him a message and said Happy Easter, and he hadn't been feeling well. So she's like, I hope you're feeling better. And he replied back, and she just speaks Spanish predominantly, but she just speaks really great English. I mean, she's been here for most of her life. So and so she was like, she sent him a message and she forgot. She usually translates it, but she didn't. She accidentally sent the whole message in Spanish. And then she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I didn't mean to. And he was like, oh, it's fine. Muchas gracias. And like he started spiking. He was like, I would like to learn it more too. And then so now every time he messages her, he says, Buenos dias.
Oh.
A little bit of banter. I'm like, and then she was afraid that like, you know how you'll send a message and then somebody else responds and then you send a message and then you eventually it has to stop, right?
Yeah.
Well, so he had sent her, she sent Happy Easter. He said, and I hope you're feeling better. And he said, I am feeling better. I hope you have a great holiday too. And then I think he said, I hope you have a great holiday, ! Not a question mark. And she was worried. She said it really made her get anxiety and stressed out because she didn't respond and she was thinking she was supposed to respond. And I said, let me see the messaging. And so I got to read all the way back from the very beginning. I'm like, oh, I'm glad you guys are totally going back and forth and flirting. It's so awesome to see. And no, I said, I gave the example of this. I said, first off, guys don't process or communicate the same as us girls do. And I realized that when my guy best friend, I had been messaging him and he didn't respond. And then I said, why don't you ever respond back to my text messages? And he said, oh, hi, we have a friend today.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
What's going on, Bubbles?
Hi, sweet girl. Come on.
So, you know, it's always live whenever you have fun here.
Just one of the girl.
So you can meet the cat.
Bubbles.
Okay.
Come on. Good girl.
Hi. I know. Hi.
Come on. Are you going to push her off? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so I was reminded by my guy best friend. I said, why didn't you respond to any of my text messages? And he goes, because you didn't ask a question. Like, if you don't ask something that requires a response, I'm not going to respond. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's how guys think. Because when I message these two girls here, like, I get a response. Whether it's whatever, it's not a question worthy. But I'm like, okay, I'll next time I'll make sure that it asks a question.
Well, with my text messaging, if we went by that rule, y'all would never answer me.
That's a good point.
Because I don't use punctuation at all.
No, I told her that story, and I said, to my point is, guys don't, that did not require a response. She was, okay, so I didn't do wrong. I said, no, you didn't do wrong. So I'm interested to hear as I go back, because the banter is now starting where it wasn't. So it's very interesting to know. But I told her, I said, you know, though, the thing is, like, that's the way you get things going. Generally, when you get a relationship later in life, it's kind of in a way of like, you kind of almost know the person first. You become friends with the person first. It's like you don't want to have to go down the path of dating apps or trying to find someone that way, although it can happen. I mean, my own mom at one point, when she was kind of our age and got divorced, I mean, she did do that route and it was successful, but it doesn't work for everybody. And in today's world, it is, I think, even more challenging because and she's like, if I go sit at a bar and someone hits on you, you don't know if there's sincerity in it. She's not looking for a hookup. She doesn't need that this time in life. She's self-secure. So anyway, that was really a fun conversation, and I look forward to hearing more about how that unfolds.
There must be something there between them.
I think so.
Because I know that I don't text and flirt with my hairdresser.
Right.
How about you, Jen? And we have the same hairdresser.
That's what I was trying to say.
I might send him one later.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I love you, Tracy, but no, I'm so happy for her, and I hope that this can definitely lead to more down the road.
so I did tell her I can't wait to hear 4 weeks when I go back, because I'll go over 4 weeks. But I said, if anything occurs before that, like, let me know.
Yeah.
So
Very exciting.
anyway, so that's kind of how that my week was. Otherwise, it was just boring work stuff. So, but that was the exciting part. I love going to the hairdresser every. And plus, not only that, but she also gives me great content for podcasts for the future too.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
going to say this. I'm so mad at myself because I wanted to apply for an extra
Oh,
for
an extra.
Landman
Yeah.
so many times, and I am the person who will have it in my head, and then I just don't do it.
I don't think you can anymore because they did it like 2 months ago. He is actually filming right now with that set, but I'm sure there's going to be another season and you can do it again because I'm
Yes.
sure they're not going to discontinue.
I'm
it.
doing it. I'm
So-
telling myself, do
But
it.
I do
Do
have
it,
something to go- I
Kimberly.
just need to tell you where to go. Okay, so let's unpack this episode, I guess. So, so as Jen mentioned, today I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. I did mention in last podcast that my weight loss journey side of things had to do with Hashimoto's, finding a balance with medication, but I was going to take a deeper dive into it. So that's this. Now this is what I'm going to do. So to give you a little bit of a backstory is I mentioned in the last podcast that it's been about October of 23 is when I started with the new medication for my thyroid. But if you go back probably 2 years past that, so I've obviously had Hashimoto's for, my kid's 18, so at least that long. But it got extremely worse in the last probably 3 years to where my whole body would inflame. So meaning I could feel like my hands I could barely close anything, open anything. My wrists would hurt. My feet would hurt and cramp up. My legs would hurt. The side of I call it the T-band, the IT-band on the side of your leg would throb. It came to a point where I could walk upstairs at my back porch and it would feel like there were weights on them and I could barely lift them up. So I knew something is not right. Like something is going on. So of course you start with your PCP doctor, your regular primary doctor. And then she was like, well, maybe you should go see a hematologist, because I was going to look at maybe I have arthritis. So I go that route and, you have to go tell your entire story of everything going on. And so I do that. And she's like, well, we can run a few blood tests and we can see if if you have any type of arthritis. We can also do x-rays of your hands and feet. We can also do a nerve study because she did ask me, do I have tingling going on? I really didn't. It was more just inflammation pain. But I did them anyway. So, and they're not cheap. I mean, these were expensive tests. These weren't like, $25 copay type tests. So I do all of those things. And guess what? Nothing comes back. The only thing she came back with was that I had narrowing of my toes and my feet. I might want to look into a bone density test at some point, which is extremely expensive. And so I asked my regular primary practitioner about that. And she said, I mean, you're not old enough to have arthritis. How do you say that word?
Arthritis?
No.
Oh, what?
Your bones are brittle. Osteoporosis. There you
Oh.
go. I said it. I think I get it eventually. Anyway, she said I wasn't. So I'm like, so then I go to my endocrinologist. So, which is a thyroid doctor if you're not familiar with thyroid problems. So I go the endocrinologist route, which I have been to before. They're the ones that diagnosed me with Hashimoto's disorder. So I go to them. She does a lab panel as well. She comes back with your medication's fine, nothing there. And I'm like, okay. So again, nothing's wrong with you. I do know, and I think I mentioned this in the podcast, that I have been on a health supplement route for quite many years, like since I was 38 and I'm 49, so a long time. And I've been taking a line of health supplements for a very long time, which comes with a circle and network of people who also have thyroid problems. And I did know that if you have Hashimoto's, you have to cut gluten and dairy out of your diet. And it's not a go on a low carb diet, it's cut it out. And I knew that, but I didn't do that. I mean, I still would have it, not like huge amounts, but more of a low carb and not no carbs. So, but I still did it. And then, so I started going to happy hour with my guy friend, and we would go locally, but next to my house, and we would go meet, maybe once a week for a little bit. And I met a bartender that worked there, and in conversation, she kind of mentioned that she had similar inflammation going on, and she'd been going to a wellness center, and that they felt like she had fibromyalgia, which fibromyalgia is kind of like inflammation all over your body. It's an autoimmune disorder as well. And I worked with somebody who had fibromyalgia years ago, so I knew what it was. Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do for it, and there is medication you can take to help control it, but otherwise it's really it's like almost like put you in a bucket when they don't know what to tell you what's wrong with you. Mm-hmm. So in our conversation, we kind of went back and forth, and she said this place had really helped her. It is a holistic doctor approach, not Western medicine, which y'all probably might not even know the difference. Most people don't. I did not either. Western medicine is what we know is going to our regular doctors, okay? And they, you tell them you have high blood pressure, you take this. You have thyroid problems, you take this. Yeah. They basically like diagnose you. They're regular doctors, okay? So the holistic approach doctor is non-Western medicine. More so they see finding the root of the cause of what types of symptoms you're having, because typically they're not just band-aiding you with a prescription. They're going to see why you're having those problems. So she kind of talks me through that, because I didn't really understand that either. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I've taken supplements, and she's like, well, I'm going to tell you, like, she was telling me the other treatments that she was doing. She told me that there at that particular practice, they also have all kinds of testing they will do for you to find out the root of your problems. And also they have a physical therapy side, a rehab side to do other types of things too, chiropractor care, all kinds of stuff, massage therapy. So they take insurance.
That's
and I was like,
cool.
Okay, well,
I
sign
would go
me
for
up.
the massage.
Yeah, the massages are great. So anyway, so I finally make an appointment. I'm like, well, I'll just give it a try. What else do I have to try? So, and in the interim while I was waiting, she kind of, ran into her again, and she was telling me some of the tests that she had done. And at this point, I think she'd been going for probably 3 or 4 months. So, and I asked her how she felt. She's like, oh, I'm feeling better, actually. And I'm like, okay, well, that gives me some promising. And she's like, well, I'm going to tell you, like, they're going to tell you to get off of all your pharmaceutical type medications. I have anxiety. I take stuff. And I'm a regular user of ibuprofen, for example. I mean, lots of things. She's like, they're going to try to tell you to stop taking all those things. I'm like, okay. So I go in for my first appointment. Now, I was already taking a ton of supplements. So I come in, I'm that person who comes in, because I have already taken a deep dive at this point. Like, I'm willing for someone to tell me anything to do to make me feel better.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And this wasn't about, I think I told you last podcast, I was the heaviest I had been in a while, but I didn't even care if I lost weight. I just wanted to feel better. Yeah. There were some days that I literally would get up and felt like I was in a car accident. That's how bad my body hurt all over.
That's
and it was
terrible.
a struggle to get up and move around. And so I'm like, I'm not making this up. I need someone to figure out what is going on. So I show up at my appointment carrying all of my supplements. I brought every single thing I was taking. And at that time, I was taking quite a lot of things. And so I come in, and I, prescription-wise, I mean, besides my thyroid medicine, I think I had 2 prescriptions total. So it's not, prescription-wise, I really wasn't taking a whole lot of things. It was more supplements and stuff. So I come in, and I know she thought it was a hot mess. She couldn't even keep up with me. So there were some things. So she explained it like this. So she herself came from Western medicine side for 30 years. I mean, she had been in working as a PA for quite some time under the regular Western medicine practice. And she explained it as this. So when you go to Western medicine, they, again, put you in a box. You have this, you take this medication. And where the holistic side, they still can write you prescriptions, can draw labs, can do anything that a Western medicine can do. But they don't just put you in a box because you simply have this. They look to find out what could be causing that. So she starts to ask me about, of course, we go through a series of questions, and I had a lot of anxiety and anticipation going into this appointment, because how many times you got to tell your story to how many different doctors? Mm-hmm. It comes to a point like you're done telling the story. So I built myself up for it, but I come into her and I'm like, I tell her my life story, everything that's happened, all the things I've had going on. And she's like, okay, so we're going to draw some labs. And I'm like, I mean, how many more labs do we have to draw? She's like, no, when I say I'm going to draw some labs, I'm going to draw like literally everything. So I said, okay. And then I show her all the supplements and she's like, you can still take this one and this one and this one, but these, you've got too many stimulants in this one. So there were a lot of green tea extracts in a lot of the stuff I was taking, for example. And she's like, that's way too many things. So you need to X out some of that. I'm like, okay. And then she added on some things. So the great thing about doing that is, and I didn't realize, like, if you are someone has insurance and has FSA account where you can get your you put aside money. Okay, so if a doctor actually prescribes you a supplement to take through like almost like a form of prescription, but it's a supplement, you can actually cover that on your FSA plan because it's a doctor
That's
recommended.
cool. Yeah, because these supplements get expensive.
They are very expensive. So I will tell you, I probably spend about $300-$400 a month on supplements. So she writes it through the plan so that I'm able to, like, she put me on several different things like omega-3s and some stuff so a lot of the stuff stems from your gut health. And that's part of it. So she's like, I want you, because you've been taking XYZ, I want you to start cleaning up your gut. And she gave me some stuff to take for that. And then she had me they did have a bunch of inflammation type supplements that they had that she referred me to, and I started taking those. And then she's like, so we're going to do all your lab work and then we'll come back and meet. So what I really thought was the greatest thing is I walked away from that appointment, the first initial appointment, and it was a long appointment. It was probably 45 minutes to an hour appointment. But I walked away from there thinking maybe someone's going to actually listen to me. But when I really felt that way is when I went back after we got the lab work. Because, so as someone who has a thyroid disorder, and if you do, then you know too, typically when you go to your regular doctor, even an endocrinologist as a specialist for the thyroid, they always just generally run your T3, your T4, and your TSH. I mean, that's your typical standard tests. But no, there was like 5 or 6 different line items for the thyroid that they really should be doing every time you get your lab work done. So I come back in and so I want to know if there's anyone out there. So please leave a comment. If your doctor, when you get lab work, actually sits down with you and covers line by line what this means. Like, this means this level means this is why it's this is why it's this is what this does. Or if you just get an email back or a call saying your labs look good, fine, see you in 6 months, see you in a year, because that's what I was getting. But when I went in for this appointment, like, she went line by line. And so my thyroid, for example, because this is the reason that I was feeling the way I was, is I have been taking a synthetic medication, meaning there's only really one, levothyroxine or Synthroid are really the only two they prescribe to you, because I have hypothyroidism disorder. And so her being from Western medicine, she's like, you had this, so you're going to take this. And she's like, but you've been on it 25 years now. So what the test showed is when you take a synthetic medication, again, it only feeds your T3 or T4. That's it. Then it relies on your reverse T3 to feed your T3, which, again, like I said last week, feeds your metabolism. It feeds other things too. Your hormones is a big one. And so she's like, your reverse T3, which tells it basically what it says, what that reverse T3 shows on your lab report, which, again, you don't get from most of the time when you do your lab test, is if that's working. Mine was not working. In other words, it wasn't communicating to give it any medication. So she's like, what that tells me is that you're no longer responding to that medication. And so I'm like, well, why didn't anybody say anything about me to me before about this? And she said, because, again, you're prescribed this, you have this, that kind of thing. So she's like, I think you should switch to a more natural form of medication. It's still prescription. It's just an older, they used to give that before the synthetic type was out there. I mean, in the 40s and 50s, a long time ago, but still it was around. And so she's like, I really think you should switch to that because your body's not responding to it anymore. And the natural medication actually feeds the T3 and 4. So it's going directly to them both, as opposed to relying on it to feed it. So I'm like, okay. And I'm not going to say I wasn't nervous about it.
Sure.
But she went over that. And then also she confirmed that I do, in fact, have Hashimoto's, because it shows she did that report too. And what's interesting, though, is there's, I mean, I don't know how the figure's sitting in front of me, but it's off the charts. That's how they know. But as I've kind of gone along through, like I discussed last week, and going through the process of finding the right dose and medication, that number has come down. And it's not going to go away, because I do know people out there that do have had Hashimoto's go dormant. You can do that, but it takes a lot of work, which I'm not there yet. So, and then she also reaffirmed, she's like, okay, so no gluten. And she gave me an entire pamphlet on things that you really should be eating. It's more of kind of like a, not keto. What's the other diet that people, not keto.
Atkins?
No. It's like keto, but more of the
Paleo?
yes, paleo.
I forgot about
good
that
job.
one.
I don't
Good
know
job.
So more of a paleo route. So I can't have anything. I can tolerate a little bit like oatmeal, like gluten-free oatmeal. I can do gluten-free products. But she's like, you have to just absolutely cut it out. And really dairy, but dairy's not as much a contributor as gluten. I don't drink milk regularly. I have switched to like coconut milk, yogurt, and I put almond milk or coconut milk in if I do make any shakes. But I do sometimes still have cheese. That doesn't seem to affect me. So I'm not having it in large quantities. Other than that, she just kind of, she put me down a supplement route, started on the new medication, and then fast forward to where I am now. And I have, unfortunately, okay, so after I left there, I was experiencing, as I mentioned, all these pains all over my body. So she prescribed me to go over to the rehab center. Mm-hmm. Over there, they have massage therapy, they have chiropractor care. They also have some additional machines that do wonders. There's some that kind of calm the nerves. There's some that the athletes use to kind of put on the muscles that are hurting. That kind of like, I call it a souped up TENS unit. It's the best way to describe it, if you know what a TENS unit does.
I have one next to my bed.
But it's a souped up, like, in other words, they have them literally on like the NFL sidelines when players come off the field, and they hook them up to the lower back or their leg, anywhere you have pain.
Yeah.
So you can't have it all over your body, and it sometimes was hard for me because I'm like, everything's hurting, but you have to pick and choose. But like, if my legs were hurting, I would put them there. If my back was hurting, I would put it there. I mean, you have to pick and choose, but it does help. So I spent a lot of time there too, and a combination of the two. And once I started doing all the new supplements and things like that, my body started to feel like normal, like really normal. And then of course my herniated disc happened, and that kind of went off the wastewater. But a couple other things I wanted to mention too is that you have to, okay, so I and since then, I guess I've kind of become a nerd about it, because in the beginning I was foreign about it, and I was relying on other people to kind of guide me down that path. But since then, every time I hear somebody that has an autoimmune disorder and they end up going down a holistic doctor approach instead of normal Western medicine path, I'm intrigued, because I want to hear like what they're hearing now. And so now that I've already been down that journey, so I recently was following a podcast, I'll be honest. There's one that I follow, and she had recently gone down that path as well. And so she brought up a couple of tests that she did, because she, like me, had pain all over her body, all these things, and she kept going to doctor after doctor after doctor and not finding any cure. And somebody mentioned her to try a holistic doctor. So she went down that path too, not knowing what to expect. And then she got there, and they again run all these labs and do these tests. And so there was one test that she mentioned on there called a Dutch test. And so she explained what a Dutch test was, but I explained it to
Are you saying Dutch?
Dutch, like her
your cat?
My cat.
So what she explained it, and then I asked my holistic doctor when I went last week for my checkup, and I was right. She explained it right, because I understood it right, I should say. But basically, what a Dutch test does is, so it's a 24-hour saliva and urine analysis, and what it finds is if your body is absorbing all the nutrients or supplements or minerals that you're taking in, is it actually absorbing in your body and doing what it's supposed to do?
So how does it do it?
Yeah. How do you?
Well, I
take
guess
that
I do it
test?
through your saliva and your urine. You do it for 24 hours. You do it at home. You do it at home.
Oh.
But then they test your sample of your saliva and your urine, I guess, and see if your body's absorbing the nutrients, which for her it wasn't. So I asked my doctor when I went last week if, because she was a new one. I hadn't met her in person, so she was new. So I asked her if that would be something I should do. She goes, no, because I mean, you are absorbing them because your labs are all showing like that you are. So there's no reason for us to do it. Plus, it's pretty expensive. And I was like, okay, well then stop. I won't do that. But that was pretty interesting because you can find out that if you're not absorbing or not. And then another thing she brought up was copper. So copper is pretty important to the thyroid. So think of your thyroid as like an umbrella.
Okay.
If it does, and then everything else in your body is underneath it, like all your organs are underneath it. If that's not working, it just tells everything else not to work.
Really?
Yes. And so copper is a big contributing to helping support the thyroid. And so I asked her about that. Well, I, again, heard this on the podcast. So
Do
I
I just
asked
go
my
suck on
doctor.
a penny?
yes, you
I
can.
was being funny.
No. So what else you can do is you can get a copper cup like the one that Jen gave me for my birthday. Was it my birthday? Yeah. So Jen gave me a copper cup and I drink my tea in it every night, or my supplement tea. I call it a tea, but it's really a supplement. I drink in hot water and I put it in my copper cup every night. But yes, you can. What you can really do is you can take water and you can put it in a copper cup and let it sit in there a bit, and then you can drink that. That's one way. You can actually take a copper powder that you mix in water and you swish it around your mouth for a few minutes and then swallow it.
Okay.
Or you can suck on a penny. Either way. So I asked her if I needed to have more copper in my body, and so I again was this nerd because I hadn't met her before. She wasn't the first one I met. So I come in carrying all my bag of supplements again last week with all of the stuff that the previous one had just told me I should take and what I was doing now. And so I showed her all the things and she was like, oh, love it, like it, love it. And I talked a lot last week about how I had lost 18 pounds, right? And taking, I have a supplement that I drink that helps liver detox, and it also has some things in it that are great for the thyroid. They're great for sleep. They're great to curb your appetite. And I handed her the bag and I said, read the back of the ingredients and tell me if everything in this you are good with, and that if you think it's good. She goes, oh yeah, I love everything in it. So that was good to hear.
Yeah.
And I asked her about the copper after she looked at everything I was taking again. And she's like, well, you have copper in this, and you have copper in this, and you have copper in this. So you're getting enough to make sure that you're getting enough. And I'm like, okay. And I'm going, what's the deal with iodine? So if you remember, I don't know if y'all know this, but for a while there was this myth about taking iodine out of salt because it's bad for you, which
I do remember that.
Which, now they're taking like dyes out of stuff, which they should do. Okay, so which is good, except for people who have thyroid problems, because you need iodine of some sort
Okay.
to supplement your body, because that's part of when you have thyroid disorder, you need iodine. So I asked her, do I need to take additional iodine? And she said, no, because again, the things you're taking, this has a little bit of iodine. This, okay. So I didn't even know. So that I'm reading as I'm reading to y'all the things I made notes to ask her questions. So, and another thing that I learned on this podcast I was watching is she said her body does not methylate, which y'all probably don't know what that is, because I didn't either.
Methylate.
So what
I don't think
methylate
we know
means
either.
is your body's not taking in the supplements that you're taking. So you can be taking that whole bag of supplements and your body's not absorbing it. So you're not methylating. Your blood is not methylating it and absorbing it into your body.
Okay.
Okay, so that's not my case, because I already knew that, because my lab work would show on there if your lab work would show that. Hers was. So she has to do some additional stuff. So there's stuff they can have you take that helps with that. And then I, again, just kind of told her about that. And then I talked about that I, granted, have starting to finally experience weight loss, but I still am having pains. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of that is me. When I have gluten or I have things, even alcohol, I mean, I don't have it that often, but once a week, but even still, it can make me ache. And I know that going in. Something else that I want to kind of touch on, then I'll kind of leave it at this. you need to be cautious. Like, that's one thing I learned about this is, I mean, granted, I had already been taking a lot of supplements, but kind of flying in that blindly. So when I say that is, it started, I mean, decades ago at this point, probably 15 years ago, I was going to a neurologist and I was taking supplements, and he told me, that's $1 billion industry that you're just throwing money at. And that's what Western medicine doctors will tell you, because again, some pharmaceutical companies run everything. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I really didn't listen to him, but that's kind of what I thought too. But I still kept taking them, one of those things. And so to touch on that is, it really makes you feel good when you go to a practitioner that came from Western medicine. So they know what your body's supposed to do, and they're doctors. They're not just some
quack.
I was going to say that, but thank you for saying that. But they're not just some random person on, the web, pushing whatever. I mean, They are doctors. It really makes you feel comfortable when they actually tell you what. So the only thing I got out of this last one, this is why I'm saying this, is the only thing I got on the last one is she told me I could try taking glucosamine, which is for your joints and stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, which one should I take? And she was like, well, I mean, just go to your pharmacy and pharmacist and ask them which one on the counter you'd recommend. I'm like, I want you to tell me which one. And here's why I say that, because you do have to be cautious with what type brand of supplement you are taking, because not all of them are the best. Just because they sell them at Walgreens or CVS or Whole Foods or Central Market doesn't mean that that's the one you should be taking. I mean, you have to make sure that it is a really great one and a referred one. So that's why it's really important that you use the guidance. And that's why I love that I can go to the place I'm going. It's a wellness center, because they are skilled in that. And they oftentimes prescribe those to me, tell me which ones to take. And I know I'm taking the right one, because you can take them all day long. But if it's just, your $5 one you find over there at the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, because a lot of times they fill them with a bunch of stuff you don't need.
Right.
And not the stuff you do need. So I would highly, so to end that story, I would just highly recommend try to think outside the box, because I'm definitely glad I went down that path. So the good news is my regular PCP, I have been to her recently, and she is totally fine with me going to the holistic doctor for my thyroid. She knows I'm going to him. She thinks it's great. She thinks that she's like, that's not my strong suit. So I'm totally fine with you doing that. I share my labs with her. I share the labs they do with her, and so forth, back and forth. And they're both totally fine with it. I also went to my OBGYN this week, and she's fine with that too. We've shared that. Now, I will tell you that going the holistic medicine route, being in our age, they want you to start hormones and because my hormone levels that was another thing on the lab, is they were extremely low. And I knew that already anyway. But my OBGYN, she does not want me to get on any type of hormone replacement type stuff until I'm a full no cycles for 12 months type thing.
Okay.
And while I don't have very many, still have less than that. So, and in fact, today when I went, she actually said the very same thing. She's like, I do feel like you're at the end of it, but again, we're not going to do those until you completely had none. So if you come back next year and you've had none, well, we can do that. And I'm really kind of on the coin, and I'll let, when Kimberly goes into her journey next time about the cancer, that's kind of why, is because I'm not really experiencing a lot of things like hot flashes and, things that you're going through to risk reward. Maybe I'm looking at it.
Yes.
Right now. So I'm not in a hurry. Yeah, it might make me feel better, but give me more energy or whatnot. But what's the downside of that right now? So I'm okay with that, because I'm trying to get other things fixed right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So even though you do go to a holistic doctor and you do give them your life story and all these things, and they do try to push these things, you can still say, I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's good.
Yeah. And I feel like if you have the right balance of it with your other doctors you're working with, because again, I'm still going to my other doctors because there are prescriptions I'm not going to stop taking because I need to take them. And and you can say to this doctor, sorry, I'm not going to stop taking that. I have anxiety and I have to have this.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though they want to push, and they haven't been pushy about it. So if you go to the right one, but I definitely think it's worth looking into. And I know that there's a couple of people, like Kimberly has introduced another one of our friends, and she's interested in going down that route too.
Yep.
And I think that you should be open to it and go down it, because it's definitely helped me.
Well, I can always say that, you've always talked about the holistic doctors, and I have, I never really, I'm not going to say believed in them. However, because, I go to so many doctors, but as she has taken this journey, I have now have come to the place where I'm like, you know what? I think I want to do this. What about you, Jen?
Yes, I definitely do.
Yeah.
And I know, of course, both of your stories, obviously. And there's so many tools in their toolbox that they have that it's not throwing prescriptions at you. Because the reason that we have these problems
I
are
have
something
enough
else.
of those.
Yeah, you do. But you have these problems that you have to take prescriptions for because there's something else going on.
Right.
And they're not finding that something else. They're just throwing medication at it.
Yeah. Just put a Band-Aid on
Just
there.
put a Band-Aid on it. And if you found what really would work, then you wouldn't need to take all these medicines to put a Band-Aid on it.
Do you want to know something that literally I forgot? When I went to go, I don't know if you know, but when I went to my doctor because we was doing a food allergy
Oh,
test,
you did tell us that last week about you're allergic to peanuts.
right? But then when they ran the rest of the blood work, that they came back and told me I had an autoimmune
No,
disorder.
you didn't tell us that.
Yes, yeah, I have an autoimmune disorder, but
Welcome.
they can't. I have to go to a specialist to find out which one. However, because I knew I was losing my insurance, I completely, literally just forgot that I even had this until you said
I'm
it.
going to tell you, go to my place. And the reason I say that is because Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disorder. But the other girl I'm following that also was diagnosed with the autoimmune disorder, I would say 90% of the time, they're not going to tell you what type. They're just going to tell you an autoimmune disorder. That's most people's case. So her body went through a lot of trauma. My body's been through trauma. Your body's been through trauma. They're not likely going to be able to tell you specifically what autoimmune disorder
But how do they know how to treat it if they can't?
For her, well, it kind of makes sense with your migraines now that you say that, because I can't speak for myself but she did have that. She had severe migraines. She had pains all over her body, which you don't really have that per se.
I don't have the pains.
Because they treated her. There's a migraine medication. I guess the one that Lady Gaga has on, that she promotes on TV.
There's a
And
migraine medicine?
I think one of the Kardashians. I'm not sure which one, but they also do too.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
So she was talking about, it's very expensive, obviously, because look who's promoting it. But anyway, she did say she did take that and it does work. And they kind of diagnosed her with fibromyalgia, which generally speaking, they will throw that at it because they don't know always what you have. Again, fibromyalgia is not something that's treatable. It's manageable. It's just taking things to help it. But she, like me, got tired of being told you have an autoimmune disorder. You got, it's just the way it is. I'm going to throw this medicine at you. So she went down to the holistic medicine doctor path, and she's actually making progress too, like I was.
I think that's a good
And so
idea.
that kind of makes sense now that I didn't even put two and two together, and but you hadn't told me that they told you that either.
I completely forgot about it because once they told me and then they were giving me my referral, I asked them, I said, how long will my referral last? And they said a year. And I said, okay, just keep it on the books because I don't have insurance. As soon as I get insurance, I will want that referral.
Okay, so
But
I would definitely.
I'm not opposed to going.
Because they can test you for all those things too. And that's what I'm saying. They will do a full, like I said, again, they did the same with her. They took a deep dive into her lab reports. They're going to go line by line. They're going to do probably more than the other one will do. And then we'll go over it with you. And they do take insurance. And if they don't, they're probably not as expensive as your regular specialist was going to be.
That was what I was going to ask.
And
That's
they're
good to know.
amazing. So
Yeah.
and they can take a deep dive. So I would totally recommend that you go, because I know that
It
our
just,
other friend that's going to the wellness center, you mentioned
Yes.
they don't take her insurance, but mine does
No.
take insurance,
okay.
and they take every insurance just about. And even if they don't, they work with you on a payment plan.
Well, I
So-
think yes. I'm
So
hoping
you-
that I will have insurance by the end of May. So I'm crossing my fingers.
Yeah.
And that will actually be one of the first things I do.
Yeah.
Was I will try it. I mean, if I don't like it, I don't like it. But I actually, you've got me hooked to where I want to try it.
I mean, I didn't know that I would, but here I am now. What? Almost 2 years. October will be 2 years that I've been going to them. And granted, the first one I originally went to, she's not there anymore, and then now there's a new one. But I went last week, and I absolutely loved her. So,
We have watched you
I mean-
start to feel better.
Oh,
I mean, like again, when you have an autoimmune disorder, and if in fact you do, Kimberly too, I'm sorry, because unfortunately it sucks, and there's not a lot you can do for it. There's no magical pill that's gonna make it go away.
Nothing shocks me anymore
Yeah, I know.
for my body.
I'm sure, but it does make sense because you do have random, just out of nowhere, your massive migraine or your massive pains or these things come up, and the only thing you can do is find a great way to manage it. And it's better to put supplements in your body that maybe can help manage it instead. So yeah. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so
Very good.
I really enjoyed listening
Yeah,
to
well,
that.
thanks for listening.
I mean, I've heard all the stories, but just listening through it again just really reinforces for me to try this. And like I said, if I don't like it, I'll go back, to my specialist, whoever they referred me to.
Yeah.
It's not like you go and then you're just doomed forever because it's the wrong doctor. No. I think it's going to be great. And Jen, I know you're going to want to go.
Oh, I definitely want to go.
Oh, I want Jen to go.
Yeah, she's been saying for a while, since the very first time they talked to me about thyroid stuff.
Yep.
Well, yeah, but why don't you just call them and ask them about self-pay and payment plan?
It's very reasonable. I will tell you. I had to pay self-pay because on the rehab side for last year, because insurance company gives you 20 visits for major surgery, so I did have to do that route, and it wasn't very bad.
Okay.
So it's not going to be more than you are to pay for what you're going to your regular doctor.
Right.
I'll tell you that.
I will definitely. That was my one question
Yeah.
that I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
No different.
We'll go together and hold each other's hands.
Yeah.
I think it would take a long time for both of us to go together because we've got a lot to discuss.
I bet I'll have to write all my stuff down. It might cover about 100 pages.
So I'll end on this. So please make sure and comment into the comment section if you've experienced any of these types of things I talked about today, or if you've been to a holistic doctor, because I'd love to hear your story, and I'd love to hear feedback of what kind of your route was. And or if you want some more information about it, also comment. I'm happy to share because that's how I learned.
Yeah.
Was someone shared with me that I didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we learn. So
Well, we just want to say thank you again for coming back to our podcast. And we really would love if you would subscribe to us and share us. Just share on your social media our video, and because I believe that the more that this gets out there, that the more people that may have issues will be able to hear our issues, just like any other person. But we talk about all kinds of things, but if you could definitely share and subscribe, that would be wonderful.
Yes, thank you for sticking with us again. Next week we will deep dive into Kimberly's stuff, and then we will end it the next week with anxiety and stress and how that affects every part of your physical, mental health, everything. So stick with us, and thank you for joining us. And remember,
Every day is a new beginning.
bye.